Story time. So, this story is not one that's upsetting or anything. This one's just strange. So, occasionally we will get people who come in and they just don't seem to trust anything. Like, if you start ringing things up, they'll question all the prices. If you put in their card, then they'll make sure, like, oh, it's not going to double charge me or anything. Like, there's a list of things that people typically do when it's clear that they either don't understand or just don't trust anything. I work down in the fuel department, so because of that, I deal with just all the people who are either one, coming to get cigarettes, or two, coming to pump their gas. This was later in the evening, probably around, like, maybe a couple hours before we close, and this lady comes and she says that the pump, or no, excuse me. First, she says, can you clear the last amount that was on the pump? Because whenever you pump your gas and everything and then leave, that number stays on there for a little bit. I don't know exactly how long it stays on there, but it stays on there for at least a little bit of time, just because, like, it wants people to be able to see for a good bit of time how much they spent and make sure that it doesn't just go away immediately. But that means that when the next person pulls up, sometimes it looks like there was gas already put in, but, like, that's just the last person's. If you start pumping your gas, it goes away immediately. And I explain that to her. I basically tell her, like, hey, you know, you don't gotta worry. As soon as you start pumping your gas, it'll go away and it won't have those numbers up anymore. She just looks at me and then just leaves. And I'm like, okay, cool. I get back to what I was doing. She comes back a little bit later and says, it's not pumping. So a lot of the time I usually just try to explain what to do, but for this lady, I figured that it would be easier for me to just come out and help her. So I do just that. I come out and I look at the pump and everything. I see that she's already chosen her fuel thing, but it's not saying start pumping. So I ask her, hey, have you done any payments or anything? She says, no, I was going to come up and do payments with you. And I'm just like, okay, that's not exactly how that works, but sure. And then I tell her to go ahead and come up. I don't actually tell that to her. I just tell her, okay, let's come up and we can get you taken care of. So we put her nozzle back in. She comes up and she's like, oh yeah, I want, like, you know, 20 bucks in gas. I scan all of her stuff, I get her card in, she gets ready to pay, and she has, you know, some rewards to take 10 cents off on her gas. I'm like, oh, you have 10 cents off on her gas. Would you like to use that? She's like, yes, I would. And I'm like, cool. So she goes, and I give her a receipt, and as I give her her receipt, she asks, so where does it show up my discount, referring to the 10 cents off that she has? She's looking at her receipt and everything, and I tell her, oh, that doesn't show up on there, that'll show up on the pump itself. It'll actually, like, show, like, oh, it's like, you know, 256, and now it'll be 246, whatever, on there. It shows it on the actual pump, it'll display it, which, like, cool. She looks at me, and she just stares at me for a minute, just, like, either in disbelief or that she just doesn't trust me, and then she just walks off, mumbles something, and just keeps staring at her receipt. So I'm just like, okay, she doesn't trust me, whatever. I watch her, she pumps her gas, she gets back into her car, and then she just kind of sits there. I didn't time it exactly, but just based off of roughly when I was sending messages to another friend, she was sitting there for maybe 45 minutes, doing absolutely nothing. I have no idea what she was doing. I have no idea what was going on. Eventually, she does leave, but just, goodness gracious, it was such a weird interaction. Like, I guess she either just didn't understand or didn't trust whatever was going on.